This is Chargers Now. I am your host, Will Ortner, and we are going to break down the first 3 rounds of the 2026 NFL Draft for our first mock draft here at the channel. Going to look at who the Chargers could be targeting, what positions they need, and why they may wait until the draft to fill some of those needs. Who Jim Harbaugh could bring in to help kind of bolster up this offense. Is there anyone on defense that needs to be grabbed and added into the squad? We're going to break that all down in today's episode of Chargers Now. When you look at the team needs for your favorite team in LA, it's pretty easy. Interior offensive line, and interior offensive line. Obviously, center is going to be a gigantic position of need for the Chargers. Really have struggled there for the last couple of years in that spot. Guard, another position that can be improved upon. Thank you to Mekhi Becton for being an absolute bust. Interior defensive line is still a position of need, although I would say it is not as big of a position of need ever since Teair Tart ended up signing his contract extension. Cornerback is a position that the Chargers could definitely look at, and of course, wide receiver. When you look at the picks right now for the Chargers, it's only a handful, only 5. Of course, you got your first, second, and third round pick still available. Fourth is there. You don't have a 5th round pick because of the Olaivavega Ioane trade. You have a 6th round pick, and you do not have the 7th round pick because of the Molden trade. There's still plenty of picks there for the Chargers. There is a chance they could potentially move around as compensatory picks are still being kind of doled out. But this is about the position where you do expect the Chargers to be drafting in basically those later back end of the draft round spots. There is, of course, a chance that maybe the Chargers could go up and make some trades. I'm looking at this mock draft as there are no trades. Everyone stays in the position that they are already slotted in. I am going to ask you now down below in the comment section, who do you think that the Chargers should look at and draft in the upcoming 2026 NFL Draft? Should the Chargers end up trading back, maybe grabbing more picks? Should they try and trade up, package some picks, see if there's a guy that you believe is going to be the missing piece? When I look at this draft, I think that if the Chargers do not take more than 2 to 3 interior offensive linemen, that is a gigantic miss for Jim Harbaugh and the rest of this coaching staff. I do think that it would be important for the Chargers to make sure that they understand that this is still a 2 to 3 year away process, and you can use a lot of these younger guys to end up bolstering what I do believe could one day be a championship roster. Let me know your personal opinion next to mine down below in the comment section. When we look at the first round going on right now in the draft this year, it does look like the Chargers probably aren't going to have to kind of battle with any teams necessarily for that pick there at number 22, because it doesn't feel like to me that the Panthers, the Cowboys, Steelers are going to take anyone that could potentially end up in LA. What I mean by that is, first case, Akheem Mesidor would be going to the Panthers in my mock draft here. Why? Because the Panthers need to shore up some of their defensive line, especially at the edge rushing position. That is not a position that I believe the Chargers are going to have to shore up, because I think that the Chargers are simply going to go out and get a new contract deal done with Olaivavega Ioane. So you would not need a guy like Akheem Mesidor. I do think he is a stud. I think he will do a lot of good things in Carolina. Good thing that the Chargers really don't have to deal with the Panthers. Next, for the Cowboys, I do think they go cornerback for Avieon Terrell. Now, that's a solid kid, had a fantastic year this year with Clemson, although I do think a lot of people, Terrell himself would say this, is disappointed with Clemson as a whole. Here is, of course, a position that I did have as a position of need for the Chargers, but I do think it would be a waste to take your number 5th or your 5th position of need here in the first round. It just doesn't make sense, especially with all the offensive linemen and defensive linemen that are on the table for them to take. Avieon Terrell, obviously very good corner with a lot of potential to grow in the National Football League. The Steelers, I've got them taking Denzel, Boston, strong, physical, fast receiver out of UW. But again, I don't think that a wide receiver is necessarily going to be a position value there that the Chargers would not necessarily want to jump on. Why would you go out and take a Denzel Boston here when wide receiver, well, again, you do need another wide receiver in my personal opinion. It doesn't seem to facilitate taking a wide receiver at that number 22 spot. So I don't think that the Chargers have to worry about their guy being taken there. For me personally, at number 22, the Chargers are going to get their guy, and that, of course, is Penn State offensive lineman Olaivavega Ioane. In my personal opinion, the pick of Ioane here is just going to shore up what the Chargers need to do up front. Now, there are a lot of detractors of Ioane when it comes to how he would fit in the Mike McDaniel system. What do I mean by that? Of course, I do mean that Ioane is a little bit bigger of a guard. McDaniel usually wants smaller guards who are able to move, go and fit into his long zone scheme systems. I don't think that really matters. When you can get a good offensive lineman, you get a freaking good offensive lineman. I think Ioane can instantly plug into the offense, and it's a way for the Chargers to save some money and save some capital. The Chargers can easily go out and spend more of their money now in free agency on maybe a potential center like a Tyler Linderbaum, because they know and they understand that there's more money that can be spent at that center position where you want more of a veteran presence. Ioane, strong, fast, physical kid. Remember, for those of you that don't think he's athletic, he was the guy that Penn State lined up at wide receiver and would use to send in motion and all those different kind of weird mumbo-jumbo things that they did a couple of years ago with Drew Aller when James Franklin took that team to the semifinals. So Ioane, he is much more athletic than you'd realize, and by taking him in the first round, it frees up more money for the Chargers to go and spend over at center. Before we get into my second round and third round pick, I do want to let you know how many subs we got on the last video. That was 21 subscribers. Can we beat that today? If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do so now. If you already are subscribed to the channel, share the video with your friends who absolutely love the best team in LA, and that, of course, is the Chargers. Get them to come in, hit that sub button. The bigger that the channel is, the more videos we get to do and the more content that we get to cover. My second round pick here might be a little bit of a recency bias, but I'll tell you what I've seen from D'Angelo Ponds this past season, I was very impressed. Obviously, I do some coverage here of the Oregon football team. That means I'll watch a lot of Big Ten football, and Ponds was all over the field. And he had a lot of big plays for the secondary of the Hoosiers in some big-time games. What impressed me the most with Ponds is he's not afraid to get into the muck. He's going to make tackles. Guys don't get away from him all that easy. He also does a fantastic job of, when asked to, adding in to the defense when it comes to blitz packages. He can make tackles for losses. Does a great job of not allowing touchdowns against him. And if you remember that semifinal game against my Oregon Ducks, well, D'Angelo Ponds had a big pick six in that one. When you look at the coverage grade for opposing wide receivers against Ponds, he doesn't really give up a whole lot of yards, shuts down a lot of opposing quarterbacks as well as wide receivers. He's the type of guy that I don't mind taking in the second round, even though cornerback, while it is a position of need, maybe not your biggest position of need, he's the type of guy that can instantly add in a shutdown corner to this team and really shore up some of what that secondary was doing. Imagine what Ponds can do with this Chargers defense, especially with the type of front seven that the Chargers have already built and are going to continue to build upon. He's a big-time player that instantly would add to this defense and would help create more and more turnovers for this squad. My third round pick here is interesting, and I think it might catch people off guard because, again, I'm going lower down on the sheet of a position of need, but I do think that it would be a mistake for the Chargers to pass on Jacoby Lane from USC. Let's get Justin Herbert another weapon. But more importantly, when you're looking at Lane throughout the years, you are going to see that he's the type of guy who can make big plays down in the red zone and gets better and better every single year. What's an issue that has kind of popped up and been something that we talk about pretty consistently with the Chargers is catches and drops. Those are things that Jacoby Lane doesn't really have. You can see in his 2024 year, he made a lot of the most of his opportunities in the red zone, and he came up with a bunch of touchdowns. Now, while the touchdown numbers clearly took a little bit of a step back this past season, he did a much better job of getting a higher yards per catch average while also gaining more yards. He is the type of player, Lane, that he could come in, and I think he would explode in this offense. He's a bigger wide receiver, well over 6 foot, so he can kind of fit into that Quentin Johnston role, and it would allow Ladd McConkey to run more in the slot, obviously, where he is at his best. I think that if the Chargers go and draft these three guys in the first 3 rounds, you are going to see a pretty successful mock draft or draft in 2026 from them. You can also use those picks at the back end of the draft to go and get more offensive linemen, interior offensive linemen, or a defensive lineman if the Chargers so choose. Because if they decide to do that, well, there's more offensive linemen that can make impacts pretty quickly in the back end of the draft than there are necessarily some of these skill type of guys. So that's why I would go and grab Lane, get Justin Herbert, another weapon, get D'Angelo Pons, give that defense another scary player, but most importantly, get Vega Ioane at number one, or your number one pick, I should say, because, well, the interior of the offensive line was an absolute problem for the Chargers. Grade my Chargers mock draft so far, A, B, C, D, or F, down below in the comment section. I think unbiased, if I had to grade my own mock draft, is 100% A+. Absolutely crushed it, knocked it out of the park. Producer Searle just gave me the thumbs up, so we know that I am killing it right now with this mock draft. If you agree with me, you can give me an A. If you disagree with me, give me a B, C, D, whatever, F. Let me know, though, why you gave that grade and who you would like the Chargers to go out and target. Hopefully, this won't be the last draft that we do before 2026. In fact, I can almost guarantee that it won't be. Make sure that you come in and hit that sub button. Thank you guys so much for viewing the video today. Again, the more subscribers that we get on the channel, the more content that we are able to do here around the Chargers. Finally, you get a Chat Sports channel that's going to be producing content on your favorite team, and you want to be kept in the know. The best way to be kept in the know is for me to be able to do more and more videos, and the best way for me to be able to do more and more videos is to have more subscribers on the channel. It's only going to help us all out. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's show, and bolt up.